Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 4. Hey there, hi there, ho there. This is Ralph Hayes Jr., RH Jr. Reality Check coming to you live over the internet through a series of tubes known as the Boob Tube of YouTube, bringing you yet another collection of debris and trash that I have added to the information superhighway. A little thing I like to call Spleen Squeezins. I can't hear the music too well from here. I have to turn it way down, even lower than it is on the broadcast settings, because it drowns out. And if the music is too loud while I'm talking, I feel like I'm talking over the music, and it's sort of like listening to your own voice delayed by a couple of seconds. Makes you fumble. Anyway, yay! We're going to do a drawing day. This is going to be a drawing day. This is going to be a drawing day. This is going to be a drawing day. We're going to be drawing, doggone it. And I want to spend at least 4 hours of draw on this show, and therefore 4 hours drawing something. Because I get up anymore. I get up, I come in, I sit down, and then boom, it's 4 in the afternoon. This is not a way to exist. It's just really isn't. It's, and I'm not getting anything done, and it's obvious, and okay, I may take a few minutes to take care of some things here. Got some bandages I got to put on and stuff. And where is my pincher thingy? I have one of those grippy, reach extender things, and I keep misplacing it. I think it's in the bathroom. Well, it's darn handy, if you'll pardon the pun. It's just a trigger. It's best $15 I ever spent. Handle was a little shoddy. I had to wrap some duct tape around it. That kind of bugs me. But other than that, you're sprinkling antifungal powders and I don't know. I really think most of the medicines I'm putting on these wounds are like creams and ointments, and I'm like, give me maybe if maybe I'd be better off with an antibiotic powder, because half the problem is that these wounds, they stay damp and and moist, especially with bandages on them. But I can't leave them open to the air, or they get gunk in them and get dirt in them, and bugs land on them, and don't get me started. And gotta keep them clean, So I've had these, and they're not really big. Imagine like smaller than a pinprick. But it leaks fluid constantly. If it's too low on my leg, it never heals. It takes forever. Months of pampering and bandages and really got to find a better way to do this. Really, is what I'm saying. I think that really keeping a wound cleaned and dry when you've got this condition is not too easy, and wrapping it up in a bandage just sort of it doesn't work as well. I'm sure you're all thrilled to hear about that. I'm talking about because right now I'm right in the middle of, and I don't have any aces. I don't have any ace bandages here with me. Okay. I have got to run to another room and pick out some ace bandages to wrap my legs in, because it's excellently important and importantly excellent, and because I'm in the middle of this stuff. Okay, yeah. So I'll be right back. Enjoy the music in the meanwhile. Where is it? Where is the? I had a little and text. Window capture. I used to have a little sign that said "Be right back, bio break." I don't know what happened to it. Okay, I'll be right back. Just give me about like 3-4 minutes. And I have returned. Hope I didn't leave you. I hope I didn't leave you hanging in suspense. Oh, speaking of which, okay. Speaking of medicines, time to take my antibiotic. Interesting factoid. Whew. I'm supposed to be getting a call from the wound care center to arrange an appointment to go to the hospital to have them look at my wounds and bandage them and maybe prescribe some things for it. And they haven't called me yet. Either that or they waited until I'm stone dead asleep and called me then. I don't have a phone in my bedroom. And I don't use my cell phone for that. I'm still one of the only people in the world. The cell phone is for emergencies, you know. Anyway. Whenever I go into the wound care center, they give me like all these different gauzes and bandage linings and this stuff it's called silver cell. They'll give me these. Okay, they'll give me these pads that are dipped in actually what is actually a sort of a honey, an actual honey, a medical honey. You know, as in this was made by bees and then they purified it for use in a hospital. Apparently, because they've rediscovered the idea. Hey, guess what? Honey is good for wounds. I'm like, yay! And they also have this stuff called silver cell, which is basically really fine, really teeny tiny. Well, it almost looks like a Brillo pad. It's made of silver. Silver fibers, anyway. And they put that on top of, they put that on there, and they put the honey stuff on there, and then they wrap it up, and these are like a triple decker layered bandage treatment. And well, you get the idea. And where did it just well, that's not good. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now, did the music stop again? The stupid music, it keeps pausing and stopping. YouTube sucks. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to bandage up my legs. Just realized that. Sorry, keep waiting on the art here, but let's see. Let's open up. Let me open up the art files here. Let me open it. I'm sure you've all seen the latest nip and tuck on the website. That is probably my one and only coronavirus joke. Okay? Look, it's getting bad out there. It's getting bad. What it is, it's turning... This virus, more and more data is coming in. Not only this virus has a lower death toll than a typical flu virus. 99.5% of the people who get it are going to be just fine. And nearly all of the remainder are people who are over 60 and in poor health. Ow. So, what we're looking at, and they're pointing out, all it took is people in the government going, scary germs, booga booga. And everybody basically gave up their civil rights. I hate to break it to you, but lawful assembly, peaceful assembly, is a guaranteed constitutional right. It's one of the things the Constitution is supposed to protect. And they've shut down business. The government comes over and has shut down business. I mean, they have taken control of everything, every business, every highway, every park, every church pew, every park bench, and they didn't even have to fire a single bullet to do it. That is how quickly we as a nation give up our rights on the most spurious claims. The vast majority of people in the press who are distorting and outright lying to people about this situation, they're trying to make it sound like the Black Plague. It's not even the flu, and they should be hung for treason because they didn't betray the government; they betrayed the entire nation. Why? Because they wanted Trump out of office. That's why they did it. They figured they figured that a plague popping out of nowhere would be more than enough to just knock Trump off his pedestal. No, don't give me that. Don't give me that. More. They had information come in recently, just now. Yeah, doctors are reporting that the case percentage it's already. The testing that indicates it's already the coronavirus is already just spread everywhere, and furthermore, the shutdown has done nothing. The death toll per case, the death toll percentages in the shutdown areas are the same as just about anywhere else. With China. Those people are killing. The Chinese government kills its own people, by the boatload on a regular basis, and nobody seems to notice. The simple fact, they have so many people dead over in China from the disease because they have so many Chinese people over there. If you have a disease that has a 0.5% death rate, and you have 1 billion people in your country, you're going to have a pretty high death toll. And it's proving that the spread and the percentage of people coming down with it is just about the same in places that have done no lockdown as it is as in short, ignore my stuttering. In short, the lockdown has effectively been about as useful as a windshield wiper on a goat's butt. It's done nothing. Except destroy the economy, drive a few hundred million people right out of their minds. Little things like that. What I said earlier, what I said in previous shows is this isn't a real, this is not the plague you were looking for, but it is, it could be, or it could have been, at least it could be a dry run. A dry run for when some serious virus gets loose and flies the same course. Because really, But the problem is that more than likely those in power are going to walk away with all the wrong lessons. The first lesson they've learned is we can get these idiots to do anything if we scare them with a germ. That's the lesson they're going to come away with. They had people. They were out arresting people for being out in their own front yards. Okay, that is power. They talk about we were doing it for your safety. Every totalitarian state figured that. The totalitarian states have figured that out ages ago. Is that for your safety is a cheap and easy cover story. You'll have to excuse. I'm not healthy and I'm not happy, so I'm going to dump on society at every corner. Hi there, trying to dry out. These ace bandages are not quite dry yet. They was hanging on a clothesline in my laundry room. In the room I laughingly call my laundry room. Moving on to other things. I really got to start doing other things in order to move on to them. Yeah, that's the thing of it. It's spread everywhere. It's spread like wildfire, but it's still. It might as well just be the flu. The governments of the world have demonstrated, what is being conclusively demonstrated is that all the measures that the government has taken to prevent this disease from spreading are just utterly useless. They're a screen door on a submarine, just whoosh right through, and the next thing everybody's coming down with it. People are being tested, and already showing antibodies for it. Problem is, we need, it's demonstrated that the government can get, the government and the media especially can generate an economy destroying panic on the most threadbare of rumors. We've demonstrated that our government is not ready for a genuine pandemic. Worse, it's demonstrated that those in places of power will almost immediately abuse their power and authority in a time that's supposed to be a time of crisis. You've got governors and mayors, they're showing up on the news, just doing absolutely batshit insane things to their constituencies, making ridiculous, ham-fisted demands of the public, and threatening to throw everybody in jail who doesn't do everything they say. no matter how pants on the head retarded it is. And yes, I'll use the word retarded. Don't start on me with the no. I am not. You can't say retarded. That's insensitive. How are they gonna know? I'm sure if you asked a handicapped person, you ask most level-headed, handicapped person. I'm not talking to these batshit insane activist people. I'm talking, most people go, yeah, being handicapped sucks. This is why we have what's referred to as a euphemism treadmill. Every time somebody starts using a bad thing to describe a bad thing, somebody comes along, tries to give it a nicer sounding name. It's a perpetual quest to try and pick up a turd by the clean end. All the terms you hear: cretin, moron, simpleton. They were all originally dry, unemotional, clinical terms, quote unquote, for being, mentally challenged in some form or other. And even mentally challenged, you can't say mentally challenged anymore because, that's become a hurtful euphemism. Of course it's a hurtful euphemism. It's a hurtful condition. You know why Bernie Sanders quit. I'll tell you why Bernie Sanders quit. Bernie Sanders looked around and the Democrat Party said, Bernie popped out of his gopher hole and said, "Is it time to turn the country communist?" And the Democrats looked around what they're doing to us right now and said, "No, you going back. We got this covered. We'll take care of it ourselves." Of course, these 20-something, he's got all these young 20-something people that support him. Of course he does. He's promising them a free cookie. You're never going to beat Santa Claus in a popularity contest. Let's just. Here comes the fun part of trying to wrap this thing around my leg, and trying to wrap the other thing around my leg. And the thing with the thing, and the thing with the thing. I don't have any. I don't have any bandage tape. That's one of the inconveniences. Can't exactly run down to the pharmacy and get some. Not without a 2-day advance notice. And trying to cut back on the number of ointments I goop on my skin. Now, here, I'm sure you're all sick of looking at that thingy. That thing flying through space. No, that's not it. Okay. Okay, give me, let's see. Give me, a man after midnight. Just a second here. I haven't got any really new stuff to show anybody anything. No, I haven't got anything that I haven't already used on the show. funky. Okay, let's trying to bandage my leg. Let me put it this way. Why am I having so much difficulty bandaging my leg? Picture trying to wrap a stretchy bandage around a tree trunk while sitting on the. Imagine trying to wrap a stretchy bandage around a tree stump while sitting on the stump. That's kinda what I got going on here. And the darn bandage unrolled. Fuck. Now, I've said a lot of different things. I'm probably come across as very contradictory about this whole lockdown COVID virus nonsense. Like I'm swinging, from one extreme to another. I don't think that there is any contradiction between. I don't think there's any conflict between being somebody who thinks, this virus could be a problem, we should do something about it, and thinking, what we're doing about it is not right and is not working. Problem is that right now we're having to deal with the fact that the opposition is selling tiger repellent. Now, what I mean by that is, you ever heard an old joke? Two guys go on a hunting trip. And one of the guys notices that the other guy has a stick on a string, just a carved stick or of some sort on a string hanging around his neck. And I said, "What is that?" He says, "Oh, I bought it from our native guide. It's natural tiger repellent. Keep the tigers, it'll keep the tigers away," he said. And the guy looks at him and he said, "Are you an idiot? There aren't any tigers around here. There aren't any tigers for thousands of miles. We're not even on the right, they're not even on the right continent. They're not even, there are no tigers on this continent." And the guy goes, "Wow, I really got my money's worth." You see, because no matter what they do, they're going to say, "Oh, see, the death rate is so low is because we've kept everybody locked up in their houses." And the answer is no. Fortunately for the rule of logic and reason, there were a couple of nations, like Sweden, that did not do the lockdown thing. And guess what? The death rate in their country is no different than the one in ours. About 0.5%. 0.5%, 0.7%, 0.6%, right in that area. Less than 1%. That's still, you don't want people dying from it, but what we're doing is not preventing it. Same old story. Same old story. It's the same story no matter what social program the leftists come up with. I feel rather sad that Trump got talked into going along with this complete shutdown. But hey, he had to listen to his advisors. But now look at it. Look at it. It's like I said. It's the same old story. The four statements you can make about every program. It does not work. It costs the world. We tried it before. It does not work. It costs the world, and it kills people. Those four sentences are a summary of leftist action throughout history. Karl Marx wasn't the guy. Karl Marx didn't invent socialism. I mean, people have been fiddle-faddling around with that idea in different forms all over the world for years, centuries, decades, millennia. Not necessarily in that order. But, the reason that the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock nearly died is because when they first set up their colony, they set it up on a socialist system where everybody farmed a little bit of land and they all put it in a big communal thing, and it was all divided equally up, blah 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 blah. And guess what? It didn't work, and they starved and froze, and they were so pathetic that the Indians felt sorry for them and came to help them out. Again and again and again. We tried it before. It did not work. It costs the world, and it kills people. The COVID-19 shutdown is the safe sex. The COVID-19 shutdown is the safe sex ed of pandemics. Okay? Yeah, because I hate to break it to you, the safer sex ed that they gave. Okay, first of all, the safe sex programs that they pushed in schools, starting in the 60s and working through, were immediately followed by a rise in the number of teen pregnancies. Back to that point, we were at a fairly low percentage. And we have never gotten back down there ever again. And so I've been informed that those stats have never gone back down to that point. They've dropped and risen over the decades, but they've never gotten back to where they were before we started paying government-trained educators to teach our kids how to shut up. And what's more is that they come in with this values-neutral attitude about it. Which is just another way of saying, do whatever you want. The psychological premise of sex ed in most public schools is sex is risky. Here's how you can get away with it. And they keep making all these promises. They throw condoms around like confetti at a parade. They hand out birth control like it was candy. They've got sex ed and informationals all over the frickin' place. I mean, they got sex ed. I remember they had sex safety ads on MTV for 20-year-olds. Come on. And that bull crap about values neutral quickly went along off on into a ditch. The instant that the special interest groups heard about it, and the next thing you know, you had homosexuals in there uh, lecturing pubescent teenage boys. Hey, be sure and find yourself an older gay male to help you through these feelings. Mm-hmm. Bunch of veal hunters. There was a time when men who tried to sexually proposition kids in a school would have been lynched. Now we got people running around trying to convince everybody that's enlightened. Anyway, the point being is that, and I do have a point, is that all the safe sex lectures in the world, and we've still got we've still got people millions and millions of kids who aren't even sure who their real father is. And and that in particular, oh yes, that has been quite the lovely treat in our society, hadn't it? Look, let's go back to this Jordan Peterson. This mom man. He's one of these philosophical lecturers. He pointed out the very obvious fact: sex is dangerous. Even with all our modern medicine, with our prophylactics, with our hormone pills, with our intrauterine devices, and with all the lectures and sanitation and hygiene and everything else that we do, that we have and that we do, it's still dangerous. The people who came up with the traditional, the people who came up with, or rather they taught the traditional mores of society, abstain, wait until you're married. You are going to want a committed mate there. When, not if, when you get pregnant. Be a man, be responsible, keep it in your pants until you're a married couple and you're in a position to be the provider for it, and so on and so forth. And all these things got chucked by the wayside. And guess what? Same old story. Didn't work, cost a fortune, killed people. Their values-free sex ed has been effectively spitting in the wind against the spread of venereal disease and the rise of quote-unquote unwanted pregnancies and fatherless children. But demonstrate, just try and mention the idea. Maybe we should go with the program that worked, where we imparted our values to the younger generation so that they would make wise decisions. You See, it's not about being values neutral. It's just they don't like our values. They don't like our values. They don't like being told no. They don't like being told your behavior is irresponsible, therefore immoral. So they took over the schools and made it a crime to even mention those values. You ever heard the saying, even a young man is putting basically putting his life and his future at terrible risk every time he goes out and engages in sex with his girlfriend or picks up a date for the night or any of another dozen euphemisms you can pick from. But when it comes down to risk assessment. You have the difference between the risk for men and the risk for women. As the old joke goes, you look at a plate of what's the difference between being involved and being committed. You look at a plate of eggs and bacon. The chicken was involved. The pig was committed. And when it comes to the consequences of sex, by and large, the man is involved. The woman is committed. Because if that pregnancy test if that pregnancy tick turns blue in her pee, she can't run away from the consequences. And yes, even if she gets an abortion, there are consequences, physical ones. Among other things, they found that an abortion raises a woman's chances of having, among other things, breast cancer. It also the procedure also results in a loss of fertility. It becomes much harder to get pregnant when she wants to after having one or two abortions. And she has to deal with you talk to women who have had abortions, and even the most blasé ones will admit. At a dark time, they'll admit that the decision haunts them, to put it mildly. They've been trying to sell themselves for the sexually licentious have been trying to sell themselves on a lie for decades and demanding that we play along with it. That you can have consequence-free, commitment-free sex. That you can do it and get away with it. That's going to upset all sorts of people, and well, quite frankly, they deserve to be upset. They've spent decades upsetting me. Why shouldn't I upset them? Okay, let's see, YouTuber. Hey, I was going. This is going to be an all art show, and I'm still putting new band-aids on my legs. I've never realized how much I stutter when I talk until I've started doing these broadcasts. I repeat myself. Soul American. thinking maybe I'm considering trying a different technique for drawing comic pages. I can picture individual. Right now, it's one of the things that blocks me is I can picture individual panels, but I can't picture them as a whole page. Pardon. So I'm thinking maybe draw individual panels and then stick them together until they're a page. I don't know. Let's see what we get. Oh, darn! It's freaking. Oh boy. There are people that claim that abstinence doesn't prevent unwanted pregnancy. I cannot even. I can't even. That's okay. What? I don't even want. I don't even know where to go with that one. I'm already drifting off. I'm already spiraling off here. So let's get to something remotely resembling work. Uh, let's see here. Quinn Space Ranger. And the music stops again. Stupid feedback thing. Video pause. Continue watching. No, I picked I picked a 500 item. I picked a 500 song list because I wanted to stop halfway after 12 of them. I think what scares me more than the idea of a complete collapse or like the idea of a societal collapse or a complete breakdown of society or a natural or a catastrophe or that doesn't scare me half as much as the idea is that things will keep just going right on the way they are. Never quite breaking, just getting worse and worse and worse and more and just edging closer and closer to catastrophe every single day, but never quite going over the line until you finally die from with an ulcer burned clear through from your front to your back. There's no more particular or peculiar a hell than having to wait for the other shoe to drop. Your brain just keeps going, this can't possibly continue. I think more is that the idea is that even as you're watching society break down, but it refuses, to break down that final last bit. It refuses to collapse, but it just keeps crumbling more and more. And the fact that it keeps holding together, like a blasphemy of reason and common sense, and this thing, it's like watching the Leaning Tower of Pisa crossing that final inch. Every year the Leaning Tower of Pisa is a little bit further over, just a little bit, just a few inches, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And I guarantee you, nobody's fixing it. And it's like watching somebody inflate a balloon and waiting for it to pop, and it never quite reaches that point. The worst part about that is that you try in good conscience to warn people, this is dangerous, this is what's going to happen. You don't want to mess with that. And you say, if you do X, Y, and Z are going to happen. And and you watch day by day, it gets closer and closer and closer to happening, but it never quite gets there. And you're not only watching society fall apart around you in real time, you're watching the principles that you accepted ages ago as being valid, being mocked, being thwarted, being suspended by some unholy alchemy. And you're sitting there wondering, how much worse can it get? How much farther can they go? How much more can they get away with? How much more are they going to be let to get away with? How much more awful are they going to slather onto your world? And it never seems to end. It never seems to hit that breaking point. That's the nightmare. Let's see. Let's if I don't break out of this mental gridlock, I'm going to do something drastic. I don't know what. Part of me is going, let's draw the next page of Tales of Quentin Space Ranger, and another part of me is going, this sucks. Why bother with continuing this story? So, yeah. I apologize. I may have overlabored my previous point I was talking about. I tend to do that too because I get this feeling I'm always worried that I'm not clearly explaining myself. And so I try and phrase it and rephrase it and put it back out there again, to catch anybody who didn't quite understand the first time. And I never know if I got it right. this whole feminist issue with mansplaining. That nearly put me over the limit. Because how dare men try to explain something to a woman? You just think I'm stupid. No, we know you're stupid. Because you're throwing a fit because somebody tried to make something more easy to understand for you, and you treat it as an attack. More the fool you. Man spreading, man splaining, man anything. The women that come up with these things, they don't know men. Sometimes I think they're aliens from another planet. Have heard about men as some sort of biological substitute for the cucumber. Yes, I said it. They don't understand men. They don't try to understand men. And they've convinced themselves that they know everything about men that there is to know, and that they know more about men than men actually do. Now, listen, ladies, listen. When you hear men talking in bewilderment, I just don't understand women. They're not flattering you. Okay, they're not flattering you. They're not saying that. You're sitting there hearing them say, I just don't understand women, and you're going, oh, it's because I am this wonderful creature of mystery. And he says, no, because you act like an idiot. You talk about how you just can't find the right man. You just can't find a good man. You can't find a good man. And gee, you're going out to a bar. Tasty place to start the hunt, honey. And finding the sleaziest guy there and running around with him. And meanwhile, the nice guy you described is standing there over in the corner going, "What? I've seen so many, guys. I mean, men are not subtle. There's this one guy I saw on a Tumblr feed. The girl was talking about, I was so depressed because my boyfriend left me, and this guy over here, he shows up with roses and candy, and he takes me out to the movies. He tries to make me feel better. Oh, he's the best friend I've ever had." Well, you stupid bimbo, at least you'll never breed. We can only hope for that. And yet, when men talk about being friend zoned by a woman, the feminists, they think they have, and the first thing out of a feminist's mouth when you talk about being friend zoned, about being treated like a buddy sidekick by somebody who you want to romance, and the first thing out of their mouth, you think that we are obligated to give you sex because you were nice to us. Well, man, first of all, I wouldn't want to stick anything in you that belonged to me, because I was taught don't stick it in crazy. And horrible is just as bad as crazy. And I will note that it was you, not the man, who first started turning this into a discussion about sex. Because apparently you think that's the only thing you have to offer a man. There was a comedian, black man. He passed away a while back, but I saw his one of his routines. And he said, imagine, he said he was talking to the women in the audience. He said, you don't, you talk about how shallow men are, you. But you don't do anything to make yourself, a better buy, as the case was. You don't do anything to make yourself more desirable. And he said, let me put it this way. Now, suppose, he described it. Suppose you were in a horrible accident. Now, I'm going to use the words he used. I'm going, that's pretty blatant. Suppose you were in a horrible accident. Boom, you lost your lady parts. Nothing, just completely gone. There's none left. He said, I don't know what kind of accident that would be, but it'd be pretty horrible. You come on. Now, how long? What would you do? What would you do to keep your man? And he has, and the women in the, what would you have to offer? And the women in the audience start coming out. They basically started yelling out that they would offer him oral or anal or anything. And he said, wait. He said, let me get this straight. You talking about how men demean you, but we talking about you suddenly can't have sex no more. And the first thing you talk about how men demean you. The first thing you thought about yourself is thinking instead of I'll learn to be a great cook, or I'll be a great housewife, or I'll be more intimate, more affectionate, more loving, and I'll be his his emotional rock, and say, but no, the first thing you think out. The first thing that you came up with, you reduced you reduced yourself to a series of holes. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, ouch. It's not men that do that to women, it's women. self-correcting thing is turned up too high. No. What can you do? Our nation is rotted to the core. What kind of a people? What kind of a people casually countenances the destruction of its own children? These same people were out there, screaming and yelling and shouting that they wanted, daycare for their precious little children. We're out there lobbying for the right to murder them not a few months before. I heard one preacher, some woman in the back popped up about that. He's, the usual dodge. All you Christians and conservatives and Republicans, want to protect the baby while it's in the womb. You just, you don't want to do anything for it after it's born. And he said, what if I get pregnant and I have a baby? Are you going to do anything, will you? And he looked at her and he said, I could just picture the disgust and just worn out, complete lack of patience left in this guy's voice. And he asked, okay, lady, I have got 2 children, one about 4 or 5 years old of my own. What would you say if I came up to you one day and said, if you don't pay for my children's food, clothing, and shelter, then I'm going to go home and drown them in the bathtub? The point of this discussion is that you do not get to abdicate your responsibilities as a human being. I am not responsible for your, I'm not accountable for your responsibilities. Okay, I'm getting an error message. Can anybody out there hear me? Type something in the chat window real quick. No, excuse me, I ate that chip. It's, it's true, yeah. Sex is one of the most beautiful and intimate and miraculous acts between a man and a woman. But anybody who's ever seen it can tell you it was never designed for prime time viewing. Awkward, messy, ridiculous looking. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Moving on, as if I had a topic to talk about. Let's see. It's just this just not popping. You know. It's, basically, I've just gone ahead. What I'm doing here is in this page, he's supposed to be Space Rangers. And it's a guest shot of the kangaroo couple. or wallabies. I'll have to look at it. Are they supposed to be kangaroos or wallabies? I don't know. They're Australian, and they're tending to one of the captives from the wrecked Imperial ships, and he's basically and they found out that he's hopped up on all sorts of military performance enhancing drugs, and he and turns out he's the ship's navigator, and basically the whole point is that Tir while it has its dangers, is nothing like what the warm okay, backing up. Okay, in Tales of the Questor, moving on to the future is Quentin Quinn Space Ranger. In that time, I decided that there could be, I'm not going to speculate on what faster than light travel is like. I'm going to say what I'm going to do. What several authors have done, say that there are several methods for faster than light travel. And one of the old reliables was to cross over into Tir because the time-space landscape, if you will, of Tir allows for all sorts of shortcuts. But since Tir is just as inhabited as real space is, and it has its own unique complications and risks. Better, faster, and more importantly, more linear forms of faster than light travel quickly surpassed it. But these Imperial ships, let's see, I'll open. These guys. This is the IMS battleship Obvious Overcompensation, flagship of the Dread First Fleet of the Human Empire. Yes, they're a human. They're humans, but they call this particular tribe, for lack of a better word, calls themselves humans. This is their commander of the fleet, Admiral Pretentious Ignoramus. He's a veteran of dozens of campaigns across hundreds of star systems, and he is the living embodiment of the culture that made him. A violent idiot. Or he was, because he doesn't even live past this first page. Anyway, these, it turns out that the Imperials, all these invading Warhammer-oid, it's Warhammer 40k with the serial numbers filed off, okay? So, for purposes of parody only. Now, this is an interesting thing. This is an actual thing. I found this out recently that that the Milky Way has smaller cluster galaxies, little mini, fun-sized galaxies orbiting it. They're not going to be just big, just little clusters of stars out beyond the accretion disk, just orbiting around it supposedly. And this is where they're supposed to have come from an isolated star cluster. And now a half dozen or so war planets have just popped out of nowhere, and are making themselves a genocidal warmongering nuisance in Quentin Quinn's home galaxy. For those who forgot the storyline up to this point. And apparently, all the ships from this particular corner of space, such as the obvious overcompensation, their most advanced drive is their most advanced faster than light drive is the Tir Nanog drive. And so basically, you have these ships, these warships full of space marines who are hopped up, space marines and troopers who are hopped up on combat drugs constantly, traveling through the flip side of space. And, Quinn's going to be like, let me get this straight. They have been traveling through Tir Nanog while tripping balls? And this is where they get the idea. This is where they get the idea that hyperspace is full of, raging demons and Cthulhuid monsters and, mountains of madness and all that other stuff, because they're literally stoked out of their flippin' minds whenever whenever they travel through space. And naturally, being out of your mind on the military equivalent of blotter acid, while traveling through a realm populated by the Fey folk, not particularly a smart idea. All right. My self-control is completely shot to heck. I'm trying to find something here. I'm trying to remember where I hit it. Let's see. The internet's really slowing down. Just that time of day, I suppose. I've heard of, I'm looking at an article here. Have you ever heard of the Explorers Club I thought it was just a fictional, I was pretty convinced it was a fictional concept. It turns out it's real. There's an actual New York's Explorers Club. Uh, they say they're changing. Let's see. The New York Explorers Club has inspired adventurers, aquanauts, and astronauts for more than a century, but it's now evolving to inspire everyone to make the world a better place. Let me guess. They let a feminist in. I'm sorry. You don't want to be stereotyped. Don't live down to the stereotype. You know what I'm saying? It's illustrated. It's got a list of members, including Edmund Hillary, Tenzing Norgay, who first summited Mount Everest, Charles Lindbergh, Thor Heyerdahl. Oh, have you ever read the story? Thor Heyerdahl. He was a anthropologist. He was studying the people of the Polynesian Islands, and he came to conclude, looking at their culture, looking at the culture that was left behind, that they had come there from Peru, from the east coast of, from the west coast rather, of South America. And everybody said that was impossible. The only thing they had to sail in back then was these balsa wood rafts. And he looked into it. There were legends and everything that had been passed down. First in Peru, of a king named Tiki, who sailed off into the sunset. And in Polynesia, there was a legend of a king named Kon-Tiki, who came sailing out of the sunset. What a tremendous leap of science to. But anyway, in order to prove that his theory was feasible, he gathered a bunch of like-minded fellows, and they went down to Peru, built themselves a balsa log raft, and sailed from Peru to Polynesia. He followed up his experiment years later with he was trying to demonstrate there was evidence that sailors from Egypt and South Africa had made it all the way to South America, and the Ra expeditions where they built a papyrus reed boat, and they built two. The first one, they made a mistake when they were putting it together, and it came apart 2/3 of the way, split in half. But the second one, they made it all the way across. So he had some material evidence that it was possible to back up his archaeological and sociological evidence that it might have happened. And he said most of us of European descent, we tend to look at the oceans as these big stationary puddles. They're not. You have these, you have all these currents running through it like conveyor belts all around the globe into every corner of it. And ancient sailors would have known of these currents, would have studied them. The Polynesians and the Hawaiians are a good example of that. They have they have a culture of traveling from one island to the next. It was the plot of Moana, people. They wouldn't give the poor guy a break though. They came back. Some doink did a DNA study of the natives of the islands he was investigating, and said, "Well, these people are more from Japan." And he completely ignoring the fact that Japanese people had been in the current century coming out to the Polynesian Islands and settling there. So there you have it. I read the Kon-Tiki. I read the Kon-Tiki and I read the Ra Expedition, and they're a gripping reading, absolutely gripping. And I read the Kon-Tiki when I was just a boy, and Uh, and the things they encountered out there. You see, the thing of it is, he pointed out, in his book, he pointed out, we power across the ocean in these big ships, with huge thumping motors, and then we come back and say there isn't much to be seen out there. They were out there floating there in the middle of a raft that was about the size of about the size of a mobile home, in floor space terms, and they saw absolutely incredible things, especially at night. Phosphorescent sea creatures rising up to the surface, swimming around their raft, observing them, and phosphorescent shrimp that glowed in the dark. They look like coal. They look so much like coals in the water that whenever a wave full of them would wash over the boat, they jump and pull their feet back, and they say it was extraordinary too, is that they managed to keep they by the time they got there, they had provisioned themselves with everything they could think of. Their objective was to get across the ocean, not starve to death in the middle of it. so they had put all sorts of modern rations and stuff, and then they came out there and discovered, surprise, surprise, they could get all sorts of food right out of the ocean. Among other things, the flying fish. Fish, and especially the flying fish, would with the waves, they would leap right up onto deck, and one of the things the first watch would have to do in the morning is they get up, gather up the fish, and clean them for cooking, and it was extraordinary is that they discovered that baby squid. The little ones are only about a foot long. They will do flying leaps like a flying fish will, because basically a squid gets around with a little jet, and when they're that small, they can just zoom and shoot up out of the water like a water rocket. And they'd come out and they'd wake up. They'd come out of the cabin that was set up on the deck of and they'd find little bitty baby squid up on the roof. They even found a couple of they found at least one fish that was thought to be extinct at the time. They were there. One night the guy was pulling in an anchor rope, and he pulled in the rope, and there was this long snake-like fish with its teeth sunk into the rope, and he pried it loose and brought it in, and they had to wake up the fish biologist that was a member of their crew, and he rolled over in bed, looked at the thing, he said, "No, those don't exist," and then rolled back over and went back to sleep. It turned out to be a fish that got named the Gempelus, the snake mackerel, and up to that point it had only been seen in fossils. Thor Heyerdahl's theory is that the King Tiki took a bunch. It wasn't just one raft out in the ocean. It was that the King Tiki took an entire flotilla, and that was basically. You look back at the story. I mean, Moana is the Polynesian diaspora. it was a hell of a read. Anyway, moving on. I used to I used to dream of exploring, seeing the world, seeing the country. Now I can't, now I dream of seeing Walmart. People are still out there exploring all sorts of things. It's amazing to see. Yeah. It's possible. The thing of it is that that doesn't exactly dovetail with the fact that there was the thing that drove the Iron Age, that started the Iron Age, is basically shortages of I forget whether it was copper or tin that they started running short of in the Mediterranean area. You got to have both metals to make bronze. So people started relying more, working more and more and more with iron because it was cheap, it was there, and copper and tin were suddenly scarce. I had such ambitions. Give me a second here. Give me a second. I know what my problem is. I haven't had anything proper to eat yet. I had like a microwave macaroni and cheese one person thingy. Those things you can add like a can of tuna to it, or maybe some chopped ham. Got yourself a nice little meal there. Of course, doesn't goes real quick. Teeny tiny little bowls. I'm a big bubba. All I've had most of all I've had today is Kool-Aid and a little bit of leftover pop and a bunch of cheese poofs. So now I'm having a peanut butter sandwich and some Kool-Aid. Lime Kool-Aid. Lemon lime Kool-Aid. Because I need it. Need something. I've been having some negative experiences with chicken noodle soup. I love chicken noodle soup. But apparently, I don't have. I don't. I eat it so rarely that it shocks my gastronomy right out of. And I end up having to make a run for the border, as it were, about an hour after I eat it. Get out of the way! I'm headed for the bathroom. My bed arrived. Well, actually, my bed frame arrived. Even though I bought them both at the same time, for some reason I've got the bed frame has arrived, which needs assembling. I haven't assembled it yet because I haven't cleared out a space for it yet. I haven't cleared out a space for it yet because I haven't hauled any trash out yet. But waiting for the mattress. But once I get it assembled, I'll have and once the mattress arrives. Nice place to sleep. I'm hoping. I woke up. I came outside. And, oh, look! There's my bed frame sitting on my porch. I really hope they didn't leave the mattress out there and some porch pirate stole it. It wouldn't be the most outrageous theft I've heard of. There was one guy lived in. he was on he was on Tumblr or something. He had a photograph. Somebody came and stole his back steps. These were like concrete back steps. They stole the steps off his house. I mean, like, just how? I mean, why? I mean, there's got to be like 1 million abandoned houses with concrete steps out front or out back that, that Mr. Stair Step Thief could have gone to and pilfered there. And nobody would have cared. But no, he's got to go to his neighbor's house and risk getting caught and possibly shot stealing concrete steps. What a world. What a humanity, I wonder how much cheaper it would be to do cruises, with cruise ships, if the cruise ships followed the currents, in a circular route, and let the current help pull them along. Makes me wonder. You probably go a lot slower. Now, I'm snarfing my way through a peanut butter sandwich. This is dinner for me. Not because I'm poor or broke or anything. I got plenty of food. I just haven't got the energy to just lumber in there and try and slam various ingredients together into something approximating a meal. I got cans of ravioli. I got plenty of cans of ravioli. Only I've found that all the things I used to rely on as basic staples of diet, more and more of them are proving not to be my friends anymore. But I've got some burrito. I've got some frozen burritos still in the fridge. Last few of those. I've got ravioli cans in the. I've got canned tuna. I'm all out of mayo though. I'm all out of mayo and Miracle Whip. I could have sworn that I bought a couple of jumbo jars of Miracle Whip, but nope. No Miracle Whip in the fridge. No Miracle Whip in the cabinets either. Boo hoo. You just can't make a tuna salad without the Miracle Whip or at least some mayonnaise. In some recipes you can substitute mayonnaise for eggs. Emergency replacement kind of thing. They say a good way to make a nice juicy burger is to grill it. Coat it with Miracle Whip or with mayonnaise before you throw it on the grill, because the fat seeps down in there and just make juicy burger. With all the it's just yummy. And let's see. I've got about half a tub of cheese balls. The cheesy puff type. See, what it was is when I went to the doctor's office last week, I had I had arranged. I find happy discovery. First of all, they found a company that had vehicles that would hold me. Wheelchair go something. But anyway, the company and my insurance company found them, and they do work here, and not only that, but they will also my insurance will also pay for trips to the pharmacy. And since my pharmacy was at Walmart, while they were cobbling together my prescription for 10-15 minutes, I ran real quick down to the store. I scootered real quick across the store, and managed to grab a few items. Of course, it was kind of haphazard, and so I ended up with among other things, a tub of cheese balls, which I have eaten halfway through in the past week. Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. Arr! And a couple odds and ends, and which made my whole week. It really did. Being able to go to the doctor, being able to get my prescription, being able to roll around Walmart even for a little bit. I hated the fact I still have to wear cut off shorts to and my legs look horrific. I'm seriously considering bringing just getting like Middle Eastern robe type thing that goes down to the floor. If they come up to me and ask me if are you are you Arab? Oh yes, my friend. What do I care? Hello, cartoon glutton. Let's see. We have a Mr. Cartoon Critic, and now we have a cartoon glutton. Howdy ho! Okay. Okay. I am. Well, crap. Just... Okay. Yeah. I'm sitting here and I am out of things to say. I feel like last night I did a show all the way until, I did a full 4 or 5 hour show. Now, well, what does it tell you that, remember when TV shows were a half hour long and that was considered excessive? But here, you got people online do 4 or 5 hour shows and don't think a thing of it. And other people who do 15-minute shows and get 10 million hits. Oh well. But, I like that. How are you handling the corona? Hasn't spilled yet. It's in a beer cozy right now. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and just... Okay, we've been online for 2 hours. That's kind of short. And... but I'm just... I'm out. I'm thinking nothing to talk about. Okay, Remdog, Cartoon Glutton. You say it's been a while. Hello. Hello. What brings you by? Seriously, what brings you? Just out of curiosity, for the 5 people currently viewing, what was it that what was it? Okay, what was the when did you first become interested in me? But seriously, what was it? Was it the comics? Was it the fan fictions? Was it this broadcast, this live stream? Bounce me some stories. They say our attention spans are getting short. How would they know? If I had a nickel for every somber pronunciation that the quote-unquote, and I use the term laughably, news people have to say about whatever is the current generation, I'd be a millionaire. Because, quite frankly, look, I remember when the greatest menace to the minds of the young in America was the advent of the video game arcade. They're turning into mindless zombies. And they were convinced it was going to do all sorts of horrible things to their eyes and their hands and their hand-eye coordination. And it was going to turn them into brainless idiots. And blah, 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 blah. Now you can barely even find a video arcade. About the only one you can find is Goblin Hollow on my old comic strip. Anyway, what? Here's my webcomics. I've been around dabbling in those things for years, on and off. I didn't go online with them until about the year 2000, or close to it. Nip and Tuck actually ran in a small weekly newspaper for a while down in West Virginia. It wasn't exactly the most professional outlet. Mm. Well, I'm trying to cobble together the next page for Quentin Quinn Space Ranger. From time to time, I've contemplated going straight to text with Quentin Quinn with the Questor stories, with Tales of the Questor and Space Ranger. Instead of drawing them, just typing them, writing the stories, and maybe adding a spot illustration here or there. True enough, Cartoon Glutton, you can play, but you got to remember, back when the arcades first came out, those things didn't exist. You didn't have home Nintendo home system quite late on. You didn't have the internet in every home. You didn't have smartphones capable of playing every game in the arcade. I also have to say there was something to be said for the experience. The social thing. People's, once in a blue moon you find an arcade in the corner of some store or some shopping mall or the like. It's still fun to stop in there. Plus, I'd like to see you play Dance Dance Revolution on your phone. That'd be the shortest game ever. Stomp, stomp. I did not think this through. Yes, I'm afraid I have abandoned the probability. It was. I'm going to be. My plan is to reimburse the people who made donations to the effort. Slowly, a little bit at a time, until it's but it's going to take an extreme amount of time. But it was just not there. If you understand what I'm saying, it was trying to be too many different things at the same time. It was trying to be a crossover. It was trying to be a procreationist perspective. I don't know what the term is. A dialectic dialogue, diatribe. I don't know. And it was trying to be a successful comic. And plus the initial planning phase made some very drastic mistakes that were making it almost impossible to write. I figured that most people would make contributions, like $1, $5, $10, and they'd have their character in a little cameo, and just a walk-on character, as it were. But the majority, the whole thing was front-loaded. Everybody came in, and everybody wanted their character to have a speaking line, and they made commissions for it, and I'm like, oh crap, because now I had a cast of hundreds that every one of them had to have a line to speak and a a spot in the story, and like. That's where it went. nothing ever really dies out completely. Nothing ever really dies out completely. There's always a few diehards someplace. There's always some little corner where they have a niche. Long after they cease to be the big influence in society. You're talking about why arcades have faded away, and well, that's but there are still little arcades here and there, and there's some of them persist because of tradition. People, it's a place where kids gather and where memories are made, and people still go there for as much for the experience as for the games themselves. You know that's why movie theaters still persist. It's just well, let's put it. I've used this example before. I'm stealing it from somebody else. When people talk about how books are just people aren't reading. Yes, they are. They read thousands of pages. Most people read thousands and thousands and thousands of pages a day on their computer. They just don't sit down with a hardback, in their favorite dining room, if in their cozy little den in front of a open fire, and sit there with a cup of hot cocoa reading Chaucer. No, they don't. That style of reading is fading away. And books, the book making industry is taking it on the chin because it's diminishing. They're losing their audience just as the movie theaters are. Or what it is though is that people will still be buying books, long after everything's digital. But it'll be a niche interest. Well, let me give the example. The example is candles. Now, candles. You got to realize candles were, they were the light bulb of the modern world up until the 18 or 1900s. When was it? When was a light bulb invented? Doggone it, I can't remember. Thomas Edison. Whatever. But candle, they were a major industry. They were an important industry. Candles and lamps were the way homes were lit. They were the way cities were lit. That was it. It was a major industry. But then along comes the light bulb, and candles disappeared entirely. Right? Wrong. We still have candles. We have birthday candles. We have votive candles. We have scented candles. We have incense candles. We have tea candles. For potpourri and and we also have emergency candles for emergency lighting, but the majority of their purpose is more for nostalgia and decoration than for anything resembling utility. I think that arcades have gone the same way. There are still a few out there holding on, and there are people out there who buy the cabinet-sized games and sets for nostalgia's purpose. And there are some games that no matter how you're not going to fit them on a cell phone. Dance Dance Revolution, for one example, and I'd like to see you play full-size skee ball on that thing, that kind of thing. The central focus of the arcade is going to shift a little bit to providing more diverse collections of games and pastimes, and I think that's what's going to happen to most smart comic book owners. The comic book industry is imploding. I mean, it's dying. This coronavirus shutdown has basically killed them. They were already dying, but this back out of the barn, back out behind the barn with a shotgun. because not only did their comics suck, they couldn't even get them to the stores anymore. So the little comic retailer stores, the retail shops, they're going to have to change their focus. Now, among other things, if you've ever gone to a comic book store, they also do things on the side, like they have gaming tables for people who play Magic the Gathering, or who play Dungeons and Dragons, or who play or who play Warhammer. They'll even have setups, for war gamers. And I think that's where they're going to expand. They're going to, the comics will be reduced to one shelf or one aisle, and the rest of the store will be dedicated to things like gaming and model making and other similar hobbies, similar interrelated hobbies. Cosplaying, you name it. Well, maybe not cosplaying. It's a bit involved for people to do in a story. They'll, if they're smart, what they'll do is they'll start renting tables to gaming groups, and maybe even loaning out books for the gamers, for the tabletop gamers. Things change, but some things linger on. Look, we live in an age where you can still buy an old-fashioned anvil online on the internet. That's the kind of age we live in. I was in my 20s before I realized that anvils in Bugs Bunny cartoons, the reason that they use anvils so much is because when Bugs Bunny and characters like him first came on the scene in like 1933, we were still a very rural and farming nation, and people were still very, horses were still very common, out on the roads, and farriers still had a lot of business, and so people, the reason they used anvils in these gags is because people were intimately familiar with just how heavy an anvil is. This is the same reason they use those giant safes, that most people have never seen outside of a bank vault. It was a cultural the anvil was a cultural touchstone. And it sort of became the icon for heavy. Oh yeah, like I say, webcomic artists. Well, you can't blame the webcomic artists for being a little bitter, because despite the fact that many webcomic artists, like myself, this is how I make my income, by doing comic strips. Whenever I can pull my crap all together and let's pull this up. While I'm talking, I might as well be drawing. So let me pull this up. Well, and you have webcomic artists who have been cranking out artwork for decades. I mean, Sluggy Freelance. Look him up. The webcomic Sluggy Freelance has been going on for at least 25 years. Probably longer. And despite the fact that these people, that webcomic artists are by and large, you look out there, you can find all sorts of marvelous comics and strips and you name it. that many times greatly surpass anything available on the bookshelf. But they were being insulted by the people in the industry and being dismissed as amateurs by people who can't, by professionals, quote unquote, who draw and write like they have a pencil clenched between their butt cheeks. Oh man, good gravy. Snowflake, Safe Space. Everybody mentions Snowflake and Safe Space first, but there are other characters in that group. The punker goth vampire kid, B negative. The Native American fat girl of substance, Trailblazer, who is basically Dora the Explorer on about 500 pounds of Twinkies. And who else was Screen Time, a kid who inhaled his grandfather's experimental internet gas and got his brain permanently connected to the internet. Have you seen pictures of the artist of the? Let me look it up. Every time I look this guy up, I can't believe. Let's see, new warriors. Marvel's new warriors looks amazing. I'm looking for the guy's name, the guy that wrote this. The original New Warriors were created by Tom DeFalco and Rod's friends, the artists. But the new Warriors, they are made by the writer of the New Warriors is no, that's not it either. The group of all new characters were created by, I swear to God, this is a real name, Emmy-nominated writer Daniel Kibblesmith. He's from The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So, of course, he's perfect for comic writing. Oh, man, there's if you've ever watched Clownfish TV on YouTube, oh, man. The husband and wife team that hosted, they used to work in the comic book industry, and then they went indie. And, this torques them all to pieces because the Hollywood writers and the TV writers and so on and so forth. Now that with the coronavirus, they've lost a lot of work. They don't have much work for them, and the union, their union for the Hollywood writers is basically telling them to go slum around in the comic book industry. And do writing there, because it doesn't require that much. Basically, you got a bunch of people who know nothing about comics and know nothing about writing for comics. Getting wafted in on their laurels and taking over all the writing, and they suck at it. Let's just. Daniel Kibblesmith. Let's see if I can find an image. What a nozzle. He looks so punchable. They were doing an interview with him. He said, "Oh, back when I was a boy, I walked." He sounded like, I'm not kidding you. Back when I was a boy, I walked out past the comic book section, and they had the New Warriors in there, and they were doing all these cool things on the cover, and I'm like, those kids are too, kids like this would be too cool for someone like me. I kid you not. That was his. So basically, he wrote a team of characters who were, I guess, basically wrote these characters so that they were an even bigger bunch of losers than he is. I'm like, what? What are these people? He's an Emmy nominated writer for television, trying to write for comic books, and he's basically slumming. And all the regular professional comic book artists and writers are just pissed. The ones that actually could write good stories. Roar creator. Okay, Thundercats Roar. Now, how many of you remember Thundercats? I remember Thundercats. No, we didn't have to. Look. He turned it into. He took this cool ass 1980s anime-esque style adventure comic. He turned it into a really crappy Adventure Time ripoff. Look at this man! Look at that top knot on his head. That should be grounds for anybody walking by having the right to just grab hold of it and drop him to the floor. Just looking at him is just. What's the word? Those soy boy. For those who are wondering, the soy boy is basically the kind of person that the chess club in high school used to beat up and give swirlies. Oh, look at this. He's apparently had so many swirlies, he's put his hair permanently up like that. Isn't that nice? I'm sorry, there's one character in Worm. I forgot his name. He's the PR director for the Protectorate. He puts his hair up in a, he dresses like a slob, wears little piggy, little square glasses that make him all squinty and round, and his round face all piggy, and he puts his hair up in a gelled fake mohawk, and he's also the jerk who's responsible for making the superheroes run around in completely unsuitable superhero costumes, and doing stupid things like telling Skitter that can't the bugs you're using are scary. Can't you use butterflies to fight crime? I want to hurt him, and I absolutely hate the character, and every time I've written him, I've basically had the Mickey taken out. That one Ladybird. Ladybird, the guy tries to turn her into a cute little Cupid doll, and she basically opens up the box of nightmares on him. And people are, why you're so mean to this character? He's not really like that. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. The fact that he was able, the fact that he was able in the story, in the original canon, to flim flam Taylor into reluctantly agreeing with him. All that said, that doesn't say he's any better than what I'm portraying as. He just says that he's glib enough, to sell his bullshit. This is something you have to take into account whenever you're talking about somebody who's worked in the media or politics. You know, 80-90% bullshit by body weight, by necessity. Bullshitting people. Ingratiating yourself to people that you don't know and that you can't, that shouldn't be able to stand you, is a survival trait. It's a survival skill in Hollywood, in the media industry, in politics. And the usual strategy to come in, they walk in with their neck beard and their top knot. Their little, the most effeminate hair. It's not even a man bun. It's just a ponytail right on the top of his fat little round head. He walks in looking like a complete douchebag. But he's glib enough to make anybody listen to him. He look at this guy. This guy managed to convince a multi-million-dollar company to let him take the Thundercats franchise and turn it into this. It looks horrible. It sounds horrible. The stories are, and and the fact that he has gotten as far as he has speaks not to any kind of actual skill, other than he's an artist. All right, yeah, a con artist. Con artists can pull absolute crap on you and then walk away and leave you going, why did I let that happen? And then they can come right back into the room and do it all over again. He's a Stein. Suey? This is my 10 minutes hate today. Just look at that. Okay, the Thundercats wasn't exactly brain food when it was first created, but at least the artist gave a damn. This is a man who cannot create anything himself. He cannot make anything original. He cannot bring anything new to the table. So he uses this he uses this crappy Adventure Time art style and mashes it up with an 80s cartoon that was running before he was born, and comes up with this barf-tastic. And what does he care? He's got the money, and now he's going to run. They're not going to air this thing. I didn't like the fact that when I was a kid, I didn't like the fact that the Thundercats, they were basically drawn like human with they were basically just humans with cat face paint on. They couldn't even be arsed to draw them with a cat nose at least. That bothered me more than it should have. But this is beyond the pale. You see, you look at these characters. They're all doing this. Some of these shows were good. You know, uh, Gravity Falls. I can't remember this one. The other two was crap. But look at them. All of them basically drawn the same with the same art with the same style. Basically, what does that tell you? It tells you that the artists that are making these cartoons are all from the same incestuous little circle. Not a crumb of creativity between them, but somehow through political PC chicanery, they have climbed their way up the ladder to where they are dictating the entire the look of the entire next generation of children's entertainment and animation. They've taken one of the they've taken one of the premier art forms that the West created and just desecrated it. Oh, and yeah, what a surprise. The Thundercats Roar creator, quote unquote, admits to hating the original. What a surprise. I said this decades ago. I said, back when the comics started going downhill, you had the Clone Saga and Spider-Man and One More Day and all these other awful things that they did to one of the most beloved franchises, and I looked at what they were doing to some of the other characters and the other stories, and it was just terrible. And I came to a conclusion. I said, you have to assume that the entire industry has been taken over by people who hate comics and who hate people who read them. Well, that's okay. We hate them too. Well, there you have it. It just shut me down. Took everything out of me, and just knowing that this exists. I hate to say it, I am not a very technically consistent artist. I'm not one of these artists. I will say this, even the mediocre ones, that make that work on these comics, that do the pencil work and the line work, they can produce over and 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 over, week after week after week, month after month, year after year. Artistically consistent. The characters are consistent. They're detailed. The anatomy is well done, and so on and so forth. So the technical skills. If I could never be a Marvel Comics artist because I could, but it would take me years of being tutored in the drawing method, and I'm a little old to be an apprentice. Anyway, look at that. That is terrible. Her waist is wider than her shoulders. That's terrible design, right? Just regardless. I'm looking at a picture of Trailblazer here. Look at this. Look at this. How'd you like to see that come jogging down the road at you? Oy. I can't imagine what it's like to be one of the line artists. You know, one of the artists that work for like Disney or for these comedy does all the people that do all the scut work, all the grunt work. It's got to be like a tiny little slice of hell to have to work on. You're making your pay working on like that horrible Roseanne Barr animated vehicle that they did years back called Down on the Farm, where Roseanne Barr was a cow. Well, not that she isn't normally, but uh, every time you got up to draw another picture of Roseanne Barr, the cow, making moving yet another tenth of an inch, 25 frames a second. There you go. And the next thing, you just probably just die a little bit inside with every drawing. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see here. In other words, the guy that created this complete dumpster fire is, he doesn't even reference the original show. He doesn't reference the original canon for anything. Yeah, well, he sucks. We already knew that. Fat Albert and Buck Buck. Man, I remember that Cosby skit. Yeah, Buck Buck number one. Okay, okay. It's been about it's been about 2.5 hours. Yeah, they what it boils down to is they're not concerned about other people's feelings. If they were, they'd make good comics. They're not concerned about other people's feelings. That's not why they refused. Oh, we need people with non-standard bodies, non-standard standards of beauty. What it means is that it boils down to these are the social justice warriors are the ugly girls and gawky, dorky boys from school who never got a date and never danced at the prom, and they want everybody else. If they can't be the beautiful people, nobody else can. They want to make everything else be as ugly as they themselves have become inside. You threw away my sympathy for you. The instant you started ranting and raving about how unfair it was that you're not regarded as beautiful when you weigh 10,000 pounds and have a face like somebody butter churned it. You know, uh, look, I look in a mirror. I have a mirror. I know what I look like. I'm fat and I'm deformed and I'm gross. And whose fault is that? Mine. I'm the only one who put those Twinkies in my mouth. You know, I'm the only one that there are so many things I could have done differently that I should have done differently and I didn't, and now here I am. And I am not in the least physically attractive to the opposite sex, and I've learned to accept it and I've learned to live with it. I'm not going around insisting that I'm not going out there rolling down the street in my little Walmart cart, holding blocking traffic and waving a sign about how being fat with huge lymphatically swollen legs is sexy. I'm not demanding that they draw characters with huge deformed legs just to just to soothe and balm my my miserable emotions. It wouldn't work, first of all, because it wouldn't make me feel any better. It would not make me feel any better to see a character on the front cover of a comic looking as well, physically messed up as I am. I'd be like, oh, good night. Give me the one with the with the zero gravity Hooters. Get over here. I don't apologize, but I don't apologize for liking to I want heroes. I want male heroes that are masculine and who look masculine. I want female heroes who are feminine and look feminine and sexy and attractive. Pardon me. Don't care if you don't like it. And you're not going to change my opinion on what I like just by, burning all the other examples. How many of you have ever heard the story of Harrison Bergeron? Harrison Bergeron was a fiction, a sci-fi story. It was written about the world where the idea of all people are created equal was basically taken this far and beyond. Everybody walked around and they were handicapped in various ways to make them all equal. If you were pretty, you were forced to wear a mask that made you look ugly. If you were smart, you were forced to have headphones on your head that earphones that played piercing noises in your ears that distracted you every now and then, so that you couldn't have a straight thought. If you were athletic and strong, you had to wear weights on you so that you were as encumbered as a fat person, and so on and so forth. And the story starts. The parents of the titular character, the husband and wife, they're sitting there, they're watching TV, or trying to, because the musicians are just as handicapped. The music playing, TV is awful, and the dancers are terrible, and typical and of their world. And it turns out that their son is Harrison Bergeron. And Harrison Bergeron, he has become a nightmare for the handicapper general. The handicapper general is the woman who is in charge of making sure that everybody is equally handicapped down to the same level. And the next thing you know, he appears on screen. He has escaped from prison, and he tells him he proceeds to tear off all the impediments and handicaps that they have literally manacled onto him. And basically, he's like a Greek god in appearance. He's the classical Superman. And he picks out one of the women, one of the lady dancers, snaps the restraints that are on her that have made her clumsy and ugly and unable to dance well, and they proceed and he makes the musicians start playing. He basically picks one up and waves them like a baton until the others get the idea, and proceeds to show them this is what people could be, and then just as and you know and before he can do anything else, the handicapper general shows up uh, and shoots him on live TV, and then threatens to shoot any of the musicians who don't handicap themselves. And the thing of it is that throughout the entire thing, one of the things is that Harrison Bergeron's father is also handicapped in the same way he was. He has earphones on and weights belted, attached to his belt so that he's constantly burdened and slow and clumsy. But his wife isn't. She doesn't need to wear a mask or any weights or any handicapping tools. And then and he notices just before his headphones go off and make him blank out again, he notices that on TV the handicapper general looks an awful lot like his wife. And his wife is sitting there. Oh my goodness, she looks familiar. That's the picture of what it comes down to. These social activists, they are not trying to uplift people. They are trying to drag everybody down to their level and destroy anybody who manages to excel above them. They want everybody to be as ugly as them, to be unattractive as them, to be as unpleasant as them, to be as clumsy as them, as slow as them, as uncreative and unintelligent as they are, and they're getting their one participation trophy at a time. You say that music was better when ugly people could make it. Well, I remember Squirrel. I've seen she's been drawn different ways ever since her origin. But most artists drew her as cute. I like those artists. But then they turned around and these new artists. She looks. The readers are coming. She looks like she has Down syndrome. You've got something against Down syndrome people. Yeah, I don't want to look like one. I don't want to sound like one, and I certainly don't want to be one. They haven't reached a point where they're going around manacling bags of weights on us or forcing us to wear masks if we're too attractive. But give them time. Oh yeah, you're talking about Kultirans on World of Warcraft. Took me a second to figure out who you're talking. Yeah, the Kultirans are just they're humans, okay? What it basically is, where they're basically introducing new body types for humans. So if you want to play a big burly fat guy, you gotta get a Kultiran character. It's kind of stupid. But they're going to be updating the artwork a lot. They're making a lot of interesting little adjustments to the artwork on World of Warcraft for the next expansion, Shadowlands. Should be interesting. There'll be a lot more a lot of it's kind of goofy. We spend people who go onto these things, they will spend hours trying to design the perfect character's face for a character who they will only see the back of their head for the rest of the video game. If that. Uh, okay. Now it is 2:51. It is 9 o'clock, and we've been going for 3 hours. And I think this is a good stop-off point. I'm going to try and do something right. I'm thinking maybe I should start earlier in the day or something with the live streams when it get more be more focused. Right now I'm just full of sugar and corn chips, and that's not working. Excuse me. Okay, y'all thank you all for tuning in. If you feel like subscribing, click the little subscribe button to the right and hit the little dingling bell thingy. And if you'd like to make a donation, I have a Patreon, a Ko-Fi, and PayPal buttons on my homepage at www.rhjunior.com. Zippity froopin' doodah. But for now, I'm going to wish you all a good night. Thank you, and catch you later.